Would we be ready, Joel?
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Ms. Howe, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening. I'll be the acting chair for this meeting because our previous chair and vice chair are no longer with us. The first thing that I would like to do is welcome our new board members, Wendy Lunsgaard and Todd Madsen, and to congratulate Sarah Borchers, who was reelected. Our first order of business is to administer the oath of office. I will read the beginning, and then if you want to do the affirmation following. Having signed the acceptance of oath and oath of office, I hereby request that you now publicly affirm your commitment to the oath of office.
I affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and of this state, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of School Board Member of Independent School District Number 278 to the best of my judgment and ability.
Congratulations, board members. Our next order of business is going to be electing our officers. The first officer we'll be looking to fill the position for is chair. Are there any nominations?
Madam Chair, I would like to nominate Mike Bash, please.
So nominated. Are there any seconds?
I second that nomination.
It's been nominated and second. Are there any further nominations for the office of chair? Hearing none, I will call the question, and this is actually a roll call vote. If you are in favor, please say aye. Opposed, say nay. Ms. Lunsgaard?
Aye.
Ms. Borchers?
Aye.
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 Congratulations, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much for the honor and the responsibility that you have bestowed on me. For the rest of the evening, I would like to thank Ms. Wallander, and I would like to designate her as the acting chair for the remainder of the meeting.
Very well. Then we will move on to our next officer position. Are there any nominations for the office of vice chair?
Ms. Wallander, I would like to nominate Sarah Borchers as vice chair.
Are there any seconds?
I second that nomination.
Are there any further nominations? Hearing none, I'll call the question. Ms. Lunsgaard?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
The next office that we will be looking to fill is the office of clerk. Are there any nominations for clerk?
Chair, I would like to nominate you.
Thank you. Any seconds?
I'll second that.
And are there any further nominations? Hearing none, let's call the question. Ms. Lunsgaard?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
That carries. The final office that we need to fill this evening is the office of treasurer. Are there any nominations for treasurer?
Madam Chair, I would like to nominate Ally Howe.
Any seconds?
I'll second.
Are there any further nominations? Hearing none, let's call the question.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, our officers for this year have been selected. Let's move on now to the matter of salaries for the school board clerk and treasurer. At our January 10th, 2011 organizational meeting, both the school board clerk and school board treasurer requested that the yearly salary for both positions be set at $1 or less. In continuation of that request, the Board of Education is asked to set the compensation at $0 or the minimum required by law as set by state statute. Do we have a motion to continue that?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? I would just like to say, as clerk, I appreciate this because we're keeping the money in the classrooms where it belongs.
I think it's the other thing that's important to note that we are, I believe, the only one school district in the state that does not pay its school board members.
Again, keep that money where it belongs. This is not a roll call vote, so we can all respond at once. If we want to move it, please say aye. If not,
This is a
oh,
roll
that
call
one
vote.
still is. Oh, never mind. I messed up again. Okay,
No,
this
no,
is
you're
why I
fine.
can't be doing this.
You're
Okay.
good.
We'll do a roll call vote. Ms. Lunsgaard.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
And the motion passes. All right. The next item on the agenda is the consideration of the agenda. Does anyone have any items that they would wish to remove or add to the? Hearing nothing, we will move on to the consent agenda. Consent agenda contains routine matters that typically do not require board discussion. Individual board members may remove an item from the consent agenda for discussion or separate action. Tonight's consent agenda items are as follows. Approving minutes from the regular board meeting held on December 12th, 2022. Approving personnel recommendations. Accepting donations totaling $33,683.10. Approving collateral. Approving the treasurer's reports for October and November of 2022. Approving electronic fund transfers for October and November of 2022. And approving various bill vouchers, EP registers, EFT vouchers, and Capital One entries. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, this truly is not a roll call item, so we can all vote at once on this. If you want to support that, say aye or nay. And I will call the question.
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion passes. We will now move on to the superintendent's report on excellence. Dr. Flesher.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's been a great week with students back on campus following winter break. I would like to wish everyone a Happy New Year to all staff, students, families in our community, and our board members as well. I would also like to send my personal congratulations and welcome to our two new board members, Wendy Lunsgaard and Mr. Todd Madsen, and congratulations again to Sarah Borchers on her reelection to the board. I look forward to working with all of you as we continue to prioritize outstanding experiences for all Orono students. I have just a few highlights tonight. Our activities director, Bucky Maris, shared that Nash Tickey is the latest Orono High School senior to sign a national letter of intent. He's made the commitment to play D1 football and continue his post-secondary education at St. Thomas. Best luck to Nash next year. Our winter teams are off to a great start. We have already 2 AAA winners, which is academics, arts, and athletics. Avery Anderson and Kayla Collenbeck are the AAA winners, and this is an MSHSL recognition, and there will be a full section recognition in February. Congratulations to Avery and Kayla. Miris Damaris has also reported that boys basketball is 6-1 and ranked 4th. Girls basketball 4-4. Boys hockey is 10-1 and ranked 3rd in the state, and girls hockey is 10-3-3 and ranked 5th. Congratulations. Our dance team also just had a great performance at Edina High School and placed 2nd in jazz and 1st in kick. This was a great competition for teams. Second, our business office is underway with enrollment for the 23-24 school year. Residents with incoming students at all grade levels are encouraged to reach out to the enrollment office at enrollment at Orono schools for instructions on how to complete the online address verification forms. Also, the state deadline for open enrollment application is January 15th of 2023. Applications received after that deadline will be considered only on a space available basis. Business office will reach out to all applicants as soon as possible after the deadline. And that concludes my report for this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Flesher. We will now move on to board members' questions and comments. This is an opportunity for us to update one another on our committee work and other events of interest. Ms. Lunsgaard.
Hi, I would just like to update that the Youth in Government Model Assembly Conference was this weekend downtown Minneapolis. Between there and students being bused to the Capitol. For anybody not familiar with Youth in Government, it is a youth-led simulation of the Minnesota state government. And the students really enjoyed, I think, their tour of the Capitol, actually doing work in the Capitol, And there were 29 students, and I would like to give special recognition to Jenna Torney, Community Education Youth Development Coordinator, for her preparation, her coordination, and her facilitation, making sure the students were ready and had a great time. That's it. Thank you.
Ms. Borchers?
Thank you. My only update is I attended an Orono Foundation meeting, I think it was December 16th, and they were finishing strong for the year. A lot of, as you may know, a lot of end-of-the-year giving happens, and so things were looking good for them. So financially and structurally, and in terms of the number of volunteers, they're always seeking more volunteers, but everything seems to be really, really humming along really well. The other thing, and I've asked a couple of you prior to this meeting, I spoke with Cheryl Polzin, who is our MSBA District 4 rep. She is not rerunning after 6 years of serving in that role. And there are 2 people who are running, both from the Wayzata School Board. And she wanted to check that we were all getting the emails from them. You should have received, it sounds like, maybe 2 from one of the candidates and at least 1 from the other. And so if after the meeting, I can give you their names so you could do a search. If you could let me know if you've received any, because I've only received 1. And so they're basically trying to make sure that their systems are working, because they want to make sure it's a fair election. The election happens during the MSBA, the Minnesota School Board Association's, leadership conference later this month, and you have to be present to vote. And so if you're not registered, like I'm not registered to go, but they do take walk-ins, they have to validate us in some form if you are interested in voting. I think voting is both Thursday after 2 o'clock and Friday throughout the day. So if you wouldn't mind, if you haven't already talked to me, come to me after the meeting and just give me that information, that would be great. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Mr. Bayash?
Just a quick update. I actually got a phone call from one of the candidates, too. 2 things I'd like to report on. Last week, Dr. Flesher and Dr. Alger led us through the first round of interviews for the Executive Director of Business Services. We had 7 candidates that we interviewed for the first round. 3 of those that we're inviting back for the second round of interviews. I think any of the 3 would be good candidates. They have different strengths, different histories, but I think we have really good candidates to choose from to be able to try to replace Jim Westrom. So we'll be doing that. Again, his retirement date is the end of this month, so there will be hopefully will be some overlap that we'll be able to do. The other thing that I attended, which Allie and we attended the orientation for Wendy and Todd Thursday night, and I want to thank Dr. Flesher for putting that on. I think that was a really good idea. It was primarily, it was maybe to scare them a little bit, because a lot of it was the attorney saying, this is what you can do and this is what you can't do, and then Dennis Cheeseborough saying this is what you should do and what you shouldn't do. So, but it was a good refresher just listening to it again. I'll maybe hear your reactions to that, of what you thought of the Thursday night event, but
it didn't work. We showed up.
But again, I think that was a really good change for an orientation for new board members. That's my report.
Thank you. Ms. Howe?
Thank you, Madam. Nothing to report this evening.
Excellent. Mr. Manson?
I have nothing to report.
All right, well, I actually had an abundance of meetings since the last time we have met here. We had the Community Education Advisory Council meeting. Tiffany went through her director goals, she's our Director of Community Education. She would like to increase community engagement, increase customer service, increase programming and membership, and support her team. And to that end, she's actually been doing some work with advertising. We've got a couple of flyers. One is to promote volunteering in the Sparks and Strive program, which I think is excellent. And she is also advertising the new Tech Buddies program, which our high schoolers will be working with people who need assistance on their iPhones or computers or what have you, and they're going to be having a regular meeting at the Activities Center once a month, as well as a meeting at Haven Homes in Maple Plain. So if anybody would like to see these flyers, let me know, but I think that's a very good start to going about to increasing awareness and getting people more engaged with those programs. The next day, on the 14th, the Orono Early Learning Parent Group met at the Discovery Center. We discussed they were doing a holiday clothing drive with the idea of starting a junior Spartan closet over at the Discovery Center. So those of you may know we have a Spartan closet at the high school, which provides various donated items for students in need, and it works very well. It's anonymous. People can just grab and go. And our early learning parents thought that was a fantastic idea, and they wanted to branch that out to doing it at the Discovery Center. So they're working out details right now as to if it'll be in a permanent location that people can access at any time, or if they'll have limited hours. And they're actually talking about going a little bit bigger and possibly having, snowsuits and boots and other things that would be more helpful to people, but that's still in development. But I really applaud their efforts to do that, because it's just a great cause and it's a way to help out our community members. And they are also doing an outreach. They're doing a Super Saturday on February 4th from 9 a.m. to 11, and they're going to be kicking off their book fair. So that will be a lot of fun for them. And then I attended a PTO board meeting. They have changed their Fun Fest date. So write the calendar. So I gave you the wrong date before. This is new now. It's going to be May 6th. They think it'll be a little more friendly to have some outdoor activities as well at the activity center. They're going to do some food trucks. They are going to have a dunk tank with local celebrities such as Adam Lamparski participating. So that'll be a lot of fun. And they're actually talking about using character as an incentive for that. So you will not be able to purchase dunk tank tickets per se, but if you win character awards, you may be able to turn them in to get opportunities to dunk your principal and various other local celebrities. Volunteers are welcome. If anybody would love to do that, contact me after. Also, AMSD had their annual meeting to present their platform, and Governor Tim Walz spoke, as well as superintendents from Edina and St. Paul, and they presented their platform, which I will not read out loud to all of you right now, but if you have interest, I can show you what it is. And then dovetailing into that, our Orono Action members watched that, and we are currently working with them to facilitate what the Orono platform will be. And we will hear about that at our January 23rd meeting. They'll be coming here to have our approval for that. And believe it or not, that's all I've got. So let's move
Madam Chair,
on.
may I make a comment?
Yeah,
So on
please.
the Strive, that is a really good program that doesn't take a lot of commitment.
Yep.
It's just 1 hour a month, but we have more students in attendance than we do adults. And so we are looking for more people to come and facilitate, because
Yeah.
we don't want students without an accompaniment there.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that. It is really a great program. So anybody who wants any details, please reach out. So now that will conclude that aspect of the evening. We have to consider any old business. Is there any other old business that needs to come before the board table tonight? Hearing none, we will move on to new business. Since this is our organizational meeting, we have a lot of items of business that need to be reviewed and approved annually. So we will go through those. The first one for our consideration is the approval of local depositories. The Board of Education designates Lake Community Bank and Maple Plain Minnesota Trust and the Minnesota School District Liquid Asset Fund Plus as depositories for the regular funds of this school district, and the officers of the Board of Education are hereby authorized in the name of, on behalf of the Board of Education, to open or cause to be opened or to continue or cause to be continued accounts with said banks, and to execute and deliver to said banks signature cards supplied by said banks containing said bank's usual customer agreement application of applicable to such accounts, and the signatures of the officers or of other persons herein after named, and hereby authorized to act for and on behalf of the Board of Education, or otherwise to endorse or cause to be endorsed, to negotiate or cause to be negotiated, or to deposit or cause to be deposited in such accounts any money, checks, drafts, orders, notes, or other instruments payable or held by this Board of Education. That is the resolution we are looking to approve. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? This is not a roll call vote, so all those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, say nay.
A or I.
Aye. Say aye. Sorry. And the motion passes. The next one is official investment depositories and transfer of funds. So we would recommend that the Board of Education approves the following investment depositories and authorize Jim Westrom, Executive Director of Business Services, and Rachel McQuiston, District Controller, to transfer funds amongst these financial institutions for investment purposes. There are 7 listed below. I would entertain a motion to approve those institutions.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Next, we need to approve an official publication for the school district. It's recommended that we approve the Laker Pioneer as the district's official publication. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion?
I would like to express our disappointment with the Laker Pioneer in their mishandling of the candidate profiles that they just forgot to publish this year before the election. I think that's very disappointing, and I think that's important to us. We expect them to adequately cover the district in their news reporting process.
And I just want to give a quick clarification, which is they did publish it online after I emailed after the last Friday edition before the election came out, where I thought the information would be, and it wasn't. And so it was published online, but very, very late.
The day before the election.
Right, and so it was a missed opportunity. They apologized, but it is, it was not great.
All right, we have had a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. All right, next would be the Office of the Clerk. The Board of Education approves that the Orono District Office at 6885 Old Crystal Bay Road North in Long Lake, Minnesota, 55356 be the official office site of the Board of Education Clerk. I would like to have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Motion carries. On to the next. There's a recommendation that the Board of Education approves the renewal of surety bonds or equivalent for all employees. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Any second?
Second.
Any further discussion? It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have a school auditor. There's a recommendation that the Board of Education approves the firm of Malloy, Montague, Karnowski, Radisevich and Company, PA as the district's auditor.
Very impressive.
Many years. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Any seconds?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have contract signing authorization. The Board of Education approves Christine Flesher, Superintendent, or Jim Westrom, Director of Business Services, to lease, purchase, and contract for goods and services within the budget pursuant to Minnesota Statute 123B.52 Subdivision 2. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Any seconds?
Seconded.
Is there any further discussion?
Can I just ask a question? Are you, Dr. Flesher, are you at all concerned that 3 weeks from now you will be probably be the only signer for some short period of time?
We have been talking about that, and the plan would be, hopefully we'd be able to bring the new name forward, the new person forward at the next board meeting,
Okay,
is the plan. We
thank
hope.
you.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. All right, now we have the staffing resolution. This is a roll call vote. Whereas the district's administrative staff manage all programs in place to educate all students at Orono schools, now therefore be it resolved that the district's Board of Education approve a resolution directing the administration to evaluate and make recommendations for increases and/or reductions in programs and positions. These changes may be necessary for the 2023-24 school year due to factors such as financial limitations, program revisions, and changing student enrollments. This provides district administration with the timeline necessary to begin planning and preparing for the 2023-24 school year, and thereby notifying these individuals impacted as stipulated in employee contracts. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second,
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion?
just a note that this should not alarm anyone. This is a standard resolution that we pass every year that, so this is not an alarmist resolution.
Thank you for pointing that out. This is a roll call vote. We will start with Ms. Lunsgaard.
Aye.
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 Motion carries. Next, we will move on to financial advisor. It is recommended that the district approves the firm of Ehlers Incorporated as the district's financial advisor. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We have a final motion to approve the firm of Wold Architects and Engineers as the district's architect and engineer of record. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion? I would just like to thank them for all the work they did on our 10-year LTFM plan, so I would strongly encourage we remain with them.
Strong aye.
So we will now call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Now we are moving on to committee appointments. So a little background on this. We have all done our homework before coming to the board table. Everyone filled out a survey with their various levels of interest in participating in these committees, and it actually worked out remarkably cleanly. There were very few left to be decided, but at the end of the day, we did have 4 committees where there were multiple people interested that we would like to have a discussion right now and determine who will be the final people filling those positions. We are looking for 2 people to serve on AMSD, which is the Association of Metropolitan School Districts. We are looking for 1 person to accompany Allie Howe in serving on Orono Healthy Youth. We are looking for 1 person for the Spartan Parent Association, which is the high school parent association, and we are looking for 2 people for staff development. Does anyone have any thoughts on these open committee spots?
Madam Chair, I would like to volunteer myself for both Orono Healthy Youth and the Spartan Parent Association. I said I would be willing to do the spa because I have high schoolers, but I didn't want to take it in case there was somebody else that wanted it. But I've done it before, and I'd be happy to do it again. And I've never done Orono Healthy Youth, and I would love to do that, particularly because of my volunteering with Interfaith. It makes a lot of sense because there are a lot of
Lots
updates
of
and links.
crossover.
Yep. So I would very much like to be on those 2.
Madam Chair, I'd like to go for staff development.
Oh,
And I just want to give a call out for AMSD. I was an AMSD rep early in my board service, and it helped tremendously in understanding sort of the lay of the land from a legislative, general sentiment, best practices between you share with other board members as well as other superintendents and other directors. It was very beneficial, and they do it on Zoom now. Where you can be on Zoom, they're still in the room, but you don't have to make the trek.
yeah.
I would happily raise my hand for that one, too.
All right. It looks like we could have 1 other person on staff development. I have served on that before and really, really enjoyed it, but I would be happy to give that up if somebody else wanted the opportunity to try that.
And it's not an onerous position
No.
at all.
It's actually really exciting to
It
hear
is.
what they're doing and innovating.
I would like to, I'd like to do staff development as well.
Is that? All right, well, go ahead.
No fisticuffs.
Right. That's, one more for AMSD.
And typically, you can have two people go to the AMSD, but with Martha and I used to kind of go every other time. If life gets busy.
Well,
Is one the main person and one an
Yes,
alternate?
yes, because Martha was always the person voting for our district if there were
Okay.
votes. I was present.
If nobody else wants to, I will be Todd's alternate.
Okay.
excellent.
I'll let you, that okay?
Absolutely.
Have you done AMSD?
No, I've never done it.
Oh, yeah, I bet you'll like
I
it.
mean, I love reading
Yeah,
their emails are fascinating to
yeah.
read.
And if you can get on their email list, it's very informative, to your point of getting the legislative,
And
Yep.
the PowerPoints that they include
Correct.
along with that are really good too.
correct.
Well, excellent. I think since that is all decided, we can now vote to approve the committees as listed with the additions that we have just made here. Is there a motion to approve those committees?
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries and our committees are set for this year. All right, on to the next order of business. We have school board meeting dates. We don't need to act on that since this is just a first reading, but I know that I speak for everyone when I say we are hoping we'll pay special attention to those dates. So please refer to those in your packets. Sarah, for those of you that is absolutely perfect looking at our calendar. She finds our,
Oh, not perfect.
well, nearly, as near as we can be, so we appreciate that greatly. So then we can move on to our next order of business, which will be the annual audit report. I will turn to Dr. Flesher for introductions.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I invite Ms. Rachel McQuiston, who is our Orono Schools Controller, and also Jackie Hegel, partner for MMKR. You did such a nice job on that, Laura. I'll just say MMKR, to the board table for presentation. A couple of thank yous as we get started. I thank the staff at MMKR. They are an independent audit firm, and I thank them for their diligence in compliance issues and government reporting and accountability of public dollars. They provide a really important service to our district and to our students and community, and we're grateful for your partnership. I also thank Rachel, who is here tonight, and our controller since this fall. She is a former employee, manager at MMKR, and she is filling in for Mr. Westrom tonight. But I would tell you that she has worked very hard and done an outstanding job with Mr. Westrom on the audit, as well as in all things financial. We're very, very, very lucky to have Rachel with us in general. And with that, I'll turn it over to Ms. McQuiston and Ms. Hegel. Thank you.
Good evening. As Dr. Flesher mentioned, I'm Rachel McQuiston, the district controller here at the district office, filling in for Jim Westrom tonight, who's feeling under the weather. So the district is required by law to have an annual independent audit of our financial statements, and our audit for the year ended June 30th, 2022 has been completed and submitted to the state. This is for the time period of July 1, 2021 through June 30th of 2022. And I think it's important to remember this time period as we review our financial results this evening, as the district was still experiencing kind of long-lasting impacts of the pandemic, which we can see in a few areas. This past year, we had an unusually high number of retirements, increased spending on substitutes, a decline in enrollment, and all of these factors and many more kind of attributed to the overall decline in our fund balance, which we'll get more into here shortly. We received clean audit opinions in every area this year, and with that, I'm pleased to introduce Jackie Hegel, a partner with MMKR, who was kind enough to fill in for our audit presentation tonight. Our regular audit partner, Bill Lauer, was able to attend the meeting tonight, and Jackie so graciously offered to present so we could hear the results tonight. And with that, I will hand it over to Jackie.
All right, well, good evening and thank you for having me tonight. And my name is Jackie Hegel. I'm a partner with MMKR, as Rachel mentioned. I am here to present the audit results for the year ended June 30th, 2022. Our role as an independent auditor is to issue an opinion on the basic financial statements over that district audit. Since your district did receive more than $750,000 in federal funding, we do complete a separate audit of that schedule of expenditures of federal awards. It's known as a single audit of the federal dollars. So as part of the overall audit, we test the internal controls and compliance over that financial statement audit, as well as with the federal single audit and with Minnesota state laws and regulations. So each year, the Office of the State Auditor releases what's known as the Legal Compliance Manual that has specific state statutes that as auditors we're required to test for each year. And for the results of the audit over that district audit, we issued an unmodified or a clean opinion on the basic financial statements. If you are looking at this report, you're going to notice that there is a paragraph in that audit opinion emphasizing a new GASB audit standard that was required to be implemented in the current year, or for 2022. And this is GASB 87 over leases. So a lease is a right to use an asset. So the district had to go through and evaluate their leases both from a lessee standpoint and a lessor standpoint. And we looked at materiality levels and what impacted the district's financial statement. So if you are looking at that, you're going to see that in the current year, there's a new lease receivable and a deferred inflow of resources. And that is for a lease that you have at the Discovery Center with the city of Maple Plain. You have lease and space out through 2024, October of 24, so fiscal year 25. So that's new this year to be putting that on the books as a lease receivable and a deferred inflow of resources. And then each year you'll see as you're collecting rent payments, that will decrease, but it's now being reported on those fund financial statements. And in this case specifically in Fund 4. For the rest of the audit opinions, there was clean opinions, as you're going to see, no findings over the internal controls over financial reporting, no findings with the compliance over financial reporting, and also no findings with the Minnesota legal compliance. So all clean audit opinions over the district's financial audit. For the audit results over that federal single audit, we issued a clean opinion on that schedule of the expenditures of federal awards, noting that it's fairly stated in relation to the district's financials. In the current year, there were two major programs that were required to be audited. We complete a risk assessment process of those federal awards, and the two programs that were audited was the Special Education Cluster, as well as the Education Stabilization Fund. That's also known as the ESSER and GEAR dollars that the district has been spending. As part of our review of those two major programs, we had no findings to report with the internal controls over federal compliance and no compliance findings in that area. So once again, all clean audit opinions as well in that federal single audit area. One requirement as part of an audit is always to follow up on any findings from a previous audit year. So in 2021, the district did have one audit comment relating with the internal controls over federal compliance, specifically with the child nutrition cluster, and specifically relating with suspension and debarment requirements. So in the prior year, some of the vendors, the eligibility checks on those vendors were not being completed. So as part of the 2022 audit, we do procedures to follow up on anything from the prior year, and we're happy to report that those were all cleared. We didn't have any issues in any of the follow-up results. So moving further through the presentation here, the next several slides you're going to see are the financial results of the audit, specifically focusing on the general fund here. This shows a graph of the general fund financial position. And just a reminder, as Rachel had pointed out too, this is from July 1 of 2021 through June 30th of 2022. So at the end of 2022, the district had a cash and investment balance of about $9.9 million, a small decrease of about $600,000 from the prior year. The total fund balance at year end was about $4.9 million, and that was a decrease of about $3 million from the prior year. And that's compared to the district did approve in the final budget a decrease in that general fund of about $2.5 million. As Rachel had mentioned, there was the impacts of COVID and just not yet being back to a normal year, but that was approved in the budget by the district. This next graph here shows the components of the general fund balance. for the past 5 years. So it looks at that total fund balance in the general fund, but splitting it down into the various components. So that non-spendable fund balance, the dollars that are restricted, assigned, and unassigned. So at year end, there's about $238,000 in non-spendable. That is dollars that are tied up in inventory at year end or items that the district has already prepaid for. When you're looked at that restricted fund balance line of about $2.1 million, these are dollars that are mainly restricted for operating capital and some scholarships, as well as some long-term facility maintenance. The assigned fund balance at year end was about $795,000. Those are dollars that are assigned for separation and retirement benefits, as well as some dollars assigned for wellness. And that leaves the unassigned fund balance at about $1.7 million. If you're looking at the unrestricted fund balance as a percentage of expenditures, that ended the year at about 5.7%. This next graph here summarizes the ADM and the pupil units that were served by the district for the past 10 years. For the 2022 audit year, the district did close the books with an estimated ADM of 2,839. That was just a slight decrease of 5 from the prior year. This next graph we have here, it shows the general fund revenue of the district. It has a bar graph showing the current year actual compared to prior year, as well as the current year budget. So the total general fund revenues were about $41.3 million. It's about $407,000 over the final budget. Some of the budget variances, the main would be in the federal sources. If you're looking at that area, that was about $345,000 over budget. And that was just due to the amount of the new pandemic grants that were recognized in the current year compared to what the district had budgeted. If you're looking current year to prior year, you saw an increase in the general fund revenues of about $390,000. A few areas that were impacted there, your state sources saw increases with the general education formula allowance, as well as some special education aid increases. You also saw your other local sources increase, consistent with other districts that we've audited. You know, you had increased admissions and activity fees, just with being back in person learning and, you know, less COVID restrictions. And then you saw that offset, your federal sources were down compared to the prior year, even though they were over budget, just once again to the timing of the federal grants that you're spending. Similar graph here, just showing the general fund expenditures by category. Overall, the general fund expenditures were about $44.4 million, and that was about $1 million over the final budget. A couple budget variances to point out, salaries and benefits were about $430,000 over budget. There were higher than anticipated costs for health insurance and also some retiree payments in the current year. And your debt service costs were about $490,000 more than anticipated. If you're looking current year to prior year, you're seeing your expenditures increased about $1 million. Some of the areas there, you saw your salaries and benefits increased. Once again, there was additional retiree payments in the current year, increased health insurance costs, and just your regular contractual salary increases. You saw purchase services up in the general fund, mainly in that elementary and secondary regular instruction area, as well as in special education. And then those are offset by your capital expenditures were down in the current year. In the prior year, there was an LED lighting upgrade project, so a decrease in that area. This next graph here just summarizes the other governmental funds the district has, specifically the Food Service Special Revenue Fund and that Community Service Special Revenue Fund. The Food Service Fund saw an increase in fund balance of about $473,000 in the current year. If you're looking current year to prior year at these revenues and expenditures, you're going to see increased activity and also over budget. A lot of that was with some programming changes. The district was operating in the current year under the summer seamless option. So with those programming changes, you know, meals were being served free to students and there was higher federal reimbursement rates. So overall, you're seeing some increased activity there, consistent with what we've seen at other districts as well. Ended the year with a year-end fund balance of about $920,000. Similar results when you're looking at that Community Service Fund. You saw an increase in fund balance of about $295,000. Once again, if you look current year to prior year, you're seeing increased activity in those revenues and expenditures. That's just with increased program participation, with some of the pandemic restrictions easing. Ended the year with a year-end fund balance of about $790,000. And the last slide I have here, this summarizes the district-wide statement of net position. So if you're looking at the district's financial report, you have all your fund financial statements, and then there's a second reporting layer we call the entity-wide financial statements. They are the full accrual financial statements where it rolls in all the capital asset activity of the district as well as all the long-term liabilities of the district. The top part of this table shows those components starting with the fund balance of the governmental funds, rolling in, like I said, the capital assets, bonds, any pension activity. And then the bottom portion of this table shows those components of net position, what's invested in capital assets versus restricted and unrestricted. So overall, when you're looking at these full accrual financial statements, snapshot at year end, you're seeing an increase of about 2.3 million from the prior year. If you're looking in that bottom part of the table, a lot of that is in the invested in capital assets. And that is just due to the timing and the relationship as far as when the district is paying down their debt, as far as adding capital asset activity. Sometimes capital assets are being added in using levy dollars versus bonds, which is increasing that. So overall, an increase in that net position of about 2.3 million. With that, I would open it up if there are any questions.
Dr. Fleischer, it's not really an audit question, but it shows in the audit. From what you hear from other superintendents, what's the likelihood of the state choosing to fund meals for all students? And I was trying to look at it looks like we had like $1.8 million of federal funding last year, so some sense of how much that would be to make that work. What do you think the likelihood of that is?
I'm not sure, but I know that it's out there already as one of the top priorities as part of the state. So I will expect that we will be heading that way.
At the AMSD meeting, Mr. Walls did specifically address fully funding meals.
It's already is a bill that's received a lot of traction. It's been really important for a lot of districts that receive free and reduced lunch. It's been critically important over the period of COVID, but it's also been challenging in other ways from a funding perspective. But I'll be surprised if it doesn't go through.
Did you have questions that you had the answers to from Jim? Or are you good?
That was related to that monthly treasury.
Oh, I'm sorry, my mistake. I'm very glad that it's such a clean audit. I think one of the things that still swirls around is that we are flush, and all school districts are flush with money from COVID. And as we can see from our fund balance, that is absolutely not true. We had to dig deep into our fund balance to cover a lot of those costs, particularly subs and things like that. And well worth it with the goal of keeping kids in school. But it just is another a nice reminder of the fact that we used what we could, and some of that was federal dollars, and we used them all, and then we had to dig into our own fund balance.
For the benefit of members in the community, can you, Dr. Fleischer, comment a little bit on the disparity between what we received and what other communities received or school districts received? Because there is a perception that schools were flush with money from COVID, but that was not equal across all districts, was it?
No, the COVID dollars were distributed based on poverty. And so, and understandably, because the impact of the pandemic did hit some communities harder. So it was distributed, and this was not a state decision, but this was a federal decision. And so what that means is districts like Orono, who have a smaller population of poverty, students in poverty, received significantly less money. That is a formula that's actually exponential in nature. It's just mathematically so. So districts of similar size, you could have a difference that was tenfold. 600,000, 6 million, things like that were just simply based on poverty. So, the bottom line was that COVID was very expensive to keep the doors open. It was really important to do so as well. But sub costs alone, in addition to extra staff, were hundreds of thousands of dollars. In addition, at the same time, you had staff also retiring, and those rates were also $500,000. And by the time you add it all together, it's very expensive. And it was really important, and that's what the fund balance is for. But now we have work to put money back into those funds so that we can have that, because that's what it is for. So I'm proud of the fact that we were open as much as possible, and very grateful for all of the staff that worked incredibly hard to be open on a daily basis, and a lot of those were our guest teachers as well. But it was very expensive.
And then for a point of clarification, in the 21 year, you had 2,838? Is that approximate or right?
Yeah, for students?
Yeah.
For the 22 year, 2,800.
Okay, but the 22 to 23 year, this current year, we are 2,888, if I,
Depends on how you counted it and what date.
okay,
So right now, it's 2,869, but
okay.
that doesn't always include everyone.
But a substantial
Yes, yes.
increase,
Yes, it's a bounce back.
yes,
Yes, enrollment is bouncing back.
yes. Where we're using terms of decline in the prior, in the audit.
Yes.
We're actually this right, in the current situation, we've seen a bounce
Yes.
back. Good.
I'd just like to reiterate what Sarah and Dr. Flesher said about, we spent a lot of money to keep kids in the classroom. And I have not heard of a single example where we ever said, oh, we've got people standing around with nothing to do. Well, but I mean, I think that's important. We hired a lot of extra people to make this work. And, but I have not heard of a single example where we said we hired too many or people in the wrong place. So I think that's really important, that it cost us a lot of money. And I'm not disparaging other districts, but you can read in the paper where school districts are talking about spending COVID dollars this year and next year for supplemental stuff, that they still have COVID dollars left over, that they couldn't even spend that quickly. As Dr. Flesher said, that exponential difference of what was available. So while it's concerning that our fund balance dropped as much as it is, we did it for the right reason. And it means it'll be tougher for the next couple years. But we did it it was the right thing. It's why you have a fund balance, and it's the right thing to do.
Is it a fair question to ask how we compare to other districts in the performance of our audit and also the financial health of our organization?
I think anytime you have all clean audit opinions, it's fair to say you did very well. You know, going through all the different audit opinions, there was no findings to report. You know, a lot of the audits are still being presented, so there will be statewide data available that the state will be compiling and putting together, I feel, in early '23.
Okay.
So there is, in the management report, there is one statewide information table that we have, but we don't have all the statewide data to compare to yet at this time.
Okay.
Would also just mention that, as a reminder, we have had turnover in our financial department, and very, very proud of our new staff who worked very hard to produce that clean audit, as well as everyone else that goes into that. There are lots and lots of rules and regulations about this, and it's really impressive. It's impressive on any given year, and huge congratulations and thank you.
Todd, in answer to your question, the one that is available is on page 6 of the management report, that you can see a graph of fund balances compared to state averages.
Thank you, Mr. CFO, for finding that.
Are there any other comments or questions? This does require action. We need to move to approve this audit. Is there a motion on the table?
I think the correct term is that we accept the audit. We don't
Accept
approve
the
it.
audit.
So I would move that we accept the audit as presented.
Thank you.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we have accepted the audit. Is there any additional new business that needs to come before the board this evening? Hearing none, I will direct everyone to our January enrollment statistics, which are in our packet. And note that our next regular meeting will be held on Monday, January 23rd at 7 p.m. here in the district office assembly room. Is there?
Ms. Wallander, I just, for the board members, I have asked Dr. Flesher for an agenda item on our next meeting to talk about public engagement, how we want to potentially change the agenda, the structure of our board meetings, workshops, and also from Dr. Flesher's long-term perspective on how some ideas she has on public engagement as we look forward to redoing our strategic plan in the next couple years. But I'd like that to be that we'll have a chance to discuss how we might want to make, we've heard from the community that there's some opportunities for us to do better, and so we'll talk about that next time and how we might change our meeting formats or our other things to do a better job of public engagement. So I'm asking that'll be an item on our agenda in 2 weeks.
Excellent. Yeah, it's a very good point. I think we're all in agreement that we want to serve the community in the best way we possibly can, and if we have things to discuss, we should definitely do that. Do we have anything else to discuss before we adjourn this evening? I would offer, anyone want to offer a?
I will move we adjourn.
Thank you.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? And we are adjourned at